Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of In the Doll World. I'm your host, Georgette Taylor, and as always, I am so excited to have you on the show today. My amazing guest today is Adwoa Cooper. She is also the owner of Adwoa Designs, and she is also an award-winning crochet doll artist. She was the first place winner of the California State Fair Craft Competition in 2023. And so I would love to be talking to her about that as well. But I just want to welcome her to being on the show on In the Doll World. Thank you so much, Adwoa, for being a guest on the show. I'm so excited to have you.
I am honored. I did not know I was your first guest of the year.
Yes.
So thank you so much. As I was telling you, I never thought I'd see the day. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome, and I'm honored. I'm so honored to have you on the show. Now, I love your creations, and I can't wait for you to share a little bit of with our audience about what it is that you do, why you got started. So maybe we could get started with that. Could you share a little bit about yourself? Where you're from, and also what inspired you to create crochet dolls, and also how did your journey with Adwoa Designs begin?
Wow. Thank you again. Well, I'm from the Bay Area, so hello to all my Bay Area people. Hello everybody from Hayward. Gosh, where do I start? Growing up out here, I'm glad my parents picked a diverse area to raise me in. I'm from Hayward, California originally. I was about 18 when I left the area and moved to Texas. I served in the Air Force for a very brief period of time. Well, 10 years, but it was a
10 years.
calm era, a calm era in the nation. There wasn't really much going on. This was a period after Desert Storm and right before 9/11. So I was very fortunate to serve during that time. After that, came back to California, went into nursing. And with nursing, it can be quite stressful. So I found an outlet. That's really the premise how I got
Wow.
into knitting and crocheting.
Hmm.
I'm very thankful for my coworkers. Just one day I was walking around and looked in this room and there were all these therapists. They were
Mm.
just having their break. Some of them were knitting, some of them were crocheting, some of them were probably doing embroidery,
Hmm.
if I remember correctly. And it was just a vibe in the room. I was like, wow, I want to learn. So I went in and I happened to sit next to a lady who was knitting. And she said, "Oh, you don't know how to knit?" And I explained to her, my mother wanted to teach me. My mother was a knitter.
Okay.
I have other relatives that are stitchers. They made more quilts
Hmm.
and were into sewing. But my mother knitted. I remember that. And
Wow.
she tried to show me, but I was just too busy. I wanted to
Hmm.
run around with my older brother and, play with the boys and ride bikes. And but she would try and try. She just wanted her little girl to learn, but I didn't
Hmm.
have the capacity. I
Hmm.
probably didn't have the motor skills yet because I
Hmm.
remember I was very young. So when she told me that, I was like, yeah, let's start knitting. So she showed me the basics. I got started. I did maybe 2 rows and I thought, yeah, I got it. But no. I went home that night and forgot everything she showed me. But at the time, I think this was 2009, um, I started learning about the power of YouTube. So I went on YouTube and,
Hmm.
there's a plethora of things to learn. And I was like, oh, wow, here's some knitting stuff. So I went
Hmm.
down that rabbit hole. So that was my start with
Wow.
stitching. I started with knitting.
Hmm.
Then someone told me, oh, did you know if you crochet, it's a lot faster? And I was like, what? Really? So then I started crocheting. And like any beginner, you want to gift everyone,
Right.
any
Anything.
moment.
Anything.
What? You stubbed your toe? Here's a hat and a
A
scarf set.
scarf.
Here you
Yes.
go. So I drove my family bananas. And they finally got to the point and said, we have enough hats and scarves. Thank you. We love you. Can you please
Do
sell
something
this stuff?
else. Do
Yeah.
something else.
Um, and I had an amazing coworker. I have to say something about him, Nolan. I would not be at this level if it was not for him. This man would come to work and he would see me on every break trying to stitch stuff. And he just was so inspiring. He'd say, well, can you make this? Can you make that?
Hmm.
And if it wasn't for him, he helped me build up my confidence. And the next
Wow.
thing you know, other coworkers were saying, oh, can you make this for me? Can you make me a hat? And
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, people want to buy this stuff. This is interesting. So that was my foundation. Then one day I was learning about Instagram. So this was a while ago.
Hmm.
I started learning about Instagram and I scrolled on this page and I saw this lady making dolls of lookalike people. I have to say something to her. She's my crochet
Mm-hmm.
just mentor, and she never even knew it. Allison Hoffman, she wrote the book Amigurumi, and that's how I learned how to make the crochet dolls of people. And I
Wow.
saw the people she was making, but I noticed, I think I saw a Questlove doll that she made.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's African American. And I noticed she used certain yarn to make like the texture of his hair. But I remember seeing that. I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do this, because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of hip hop artists, a lot of
Right.
R&B artists, I thought I would think they would want a doll of themselves, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah.
So as I said, I went down that rabbit hole. I got her book, started stitching, and folks loved it. And
Oh.
that was how I got started between that and also my children.
Mm-hmm.
At this time, at that era, the Star Wars was
Mm-hmm.
being rebooted with all the
Right.
prequels. And they loved that. I grew up on episode 4 and up. So,
Mm-hmm.
I'm Gen Xer. So um, that was how I started. But it's interesting to see them enjoying all these prequels. So I
Right.
taught them, you start with episode 4 and go up.
Right.
But
Right.
then they started learning the main characters, and my oldest son Isaiah said, "Mama, please make me a Yoda. I love Yoda.
Oh.
Um, please make me a Yoda." And I thought, "Oh my gosh, can I do this?" And I tried. I gave it an honest try. It was horrible.
Oh no.
He's such a wonderful child and just a kind-hearted child. He took it from me and he looked at it and he said, "Thank you, Mom, but I know you can do better." And he walked out of the room
Oh.
and it just stuck with me. I was like, oh, my baby just, wow, he was my first legitimate critic that,
Yeah.
hey, this is okay, but you got to, tighten up those skills.
But you can do better. It's probably what you would
Right.
say to
Yeah.
him, right? When he bring home a C or a B, you're like, "This is
Right.
great,
You
but
know,
I know you could do better." So
I
he
guess he
just,
did. He mirrored, I guess, what I
yes.
had said to him, and
Mm-hmm.
it lit a fire under me. And I was like,
Wow.
I gotta redeem myself. So then I got introduced to other crochet designers.
Mm-hmm.
Another idol of mine, Lucy Ravenscar. She's I believe she lives in London. She specializes
Oh,
in
okay.
fantasy figures.
Okay.
So she gave me a good foundation to
Mm-hmm.
kind of model, and I practiced on a lot of her designs. And I thought,
Okay.
I can do this.
Mhm.
So between my coworkers, I will
Right.
always be grateful for them. My children, my youngest son, Israel, he got my Etsy shop shut down because he liked the characters from I think the game was called Angry Birds. That was
Oh
a big
yes. Mm-hmm.
deal. Yes.
Yes, I remember
So
that.
he said, "Oh, Mama, I want Angry Birds. Make me Angry Birds." So I made the Angry Birds and I learned everything there is to know about copyright infringement
That's right.
after posting those in my Etsy shop. Within one
Wow.
hour, my shop was shut down.
Wow.
I had a
Really?
cease and desist letter from, I believe the company is called Rovio, who owns them. They
Wow.
said, it was just very blunt, just,
Yeah.
"Hey,
You
this is
can't do
ours."
this. Right.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Even Etsy wrote me because it happens a lot. They even wrote me
Mm-hmm.
and said, "Hey, take
Right.
it down. We'll open
Mm-hmm.
you back up, but please,
Right. Right.
respect,
Respect that.
this
Yeah.
copy." So I
Yeah.
learned so
Yeah,
much.
yeah, and
So,
that is a good lesson. Unfortunately,
oh,
I mean, it's not a
yes.
good lesson to be shut down, but it definitely is a good lesson to learn. What you can do and can't do because it is a fine line, and you have to
Oh,
know that.
yes.
You really do have to know
You
that
have to
and respect
respect that.
everybody's art. So
That's right.
yeah.
So and that was a wake up call. Some of those lessons, you never forget lessons like that, and it sticks with me to this day.
Hmm.
So now if I get a request like that, it's
Mm.
like, well, do you realize what you're asking me
Right,
to
right,
do, right?
right.
It expanded though. It got to the point where I grew up listening to a lot of hip hop music. That's
Hmm.
just like the soundtrack of my formative years,
Yes.
my
Hmm.
teenage years.
Uh-huh.
I listen to a song, I get this memory. One day my cousin and I were chatting online, and I believe the artist Rick Ross was
Hmm.
trending at the
Hmm.
time. And I was just joking around and I said, "Oh, I should make some hip hop dolls." And she goes, "Really? Crochet and hip hop, those two don't go together." And I said, it was like a challenge to me. I was like, "Really? You don't think the two go
Why can't
together?"
they go together?
Yeah, I like both. So, and for some reason, it was a Rick Ross doll that just inspired me because his features were so unique. And the
Mm-hmm.
image I was looking at, I was like, maybe I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up making a doll similar to him, posting it again. And then the next thing I knew, I was getting all of these orders for
Oh
this
wow.
doll. And I just put rap artist
Right,
doll or
right.
whatever.
Uh-huh.
I knew to tread lightly.
Right, right.
So I just kept getting these orders and orders. I'm like, what is going on? What, you know? And then I realized a blogger, I can't remember the name of the blog right now, but she posted, I didn't even
Mm-hmm.
know she posted it. And that's where it was generating all these orders. I couldn't believe it. People from all
Wow.
over the country, people overseas were ordering them. And I thought,
Wow.
there's something to this, you know?
Wow.
So I just kept going. Friends would say, hey, can you make my daughter? Because as I
Mm-hmm.
grew up, there weren't a lot of dolls, as you know,
Yes.
that looked like
They
me.
look.
And I'm very thankful. The youngsters nowadays call it being woke. I had very woke parents. Actually, they read the doll study, um,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
and were very aware that,
Aware.
she
Yes.
needs dolls that look like
Representation is
her.
important. Yeah, exactly.
Very
Yes.
important. I'm so
Mm-hmm.
thankful for that because it
Yeah.
stuck with me all these years. So parents would reach out to me saying, I need a doll that looks like my daughter,
Wow.
and not just African American children. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people from the Latino community reach
Mm-hmm.
out to me. They wanted a doll that represented their child. And I thought, oh my
Yes.
gosh, this is still an issue. I
Yeah.
was in my 40s and this is still an issue. So
Mm-hmm.
I started doing that, but I always kept the hip hop in my back pocket. And I would sneak a hip hop doll in. And then one day I donated some dolls to an organization for, I believe it was the Legends of Hip Hop, the
Mm.
wives of hip hop legends
Okay.
were trying to get started with a show about their story. And they needed gifts and
Mm-hmm.
items
Right.
from the genre
Mm-hmm.
for their press release. And so I jumped on that.
Mm-hmm.
I felt very fortunate. I sent an image like, oh yeah, we need this.
Mm-hmm.
So as
Nice.
luck would have it, I sent a set of Run DMC dolls with the little turntable, and it was really
DMC,
cute.
that's so cool.
And I thought nothing of it. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, I got to get started somewhere. So I donated these dolls. A DJ that I had been listening to all my life, and I didn't even realize it, DJ Scratch, saw them, and
Mm-hmm.
he said, "Whoa, I want those. Who made that?" And the organizer told him about me.
Right.
Her name is Dana, and I'm so thankful for her. She told him, yeah, you can have them, told him about me.
Right.
So I thought that was the end of that. I'm on social media. I think it was Instagram. And you know how you follow someone and you get the little alert that they're
Right.
going live.
Yes.
And
Uh-huh.
I'm like, oh, wow, let's check him out. He's going live. What is he talking about? So I click the button and, it comes on and I'm watching. And I see him looking at the phone and he's talking to his audience and he's looking closer and
He
he
sees you.
points and he says, hey, you made those dolls. I need you to make a doll of me. I dropped my phone when he said, I said,
Talking
could
to
he be
me.
talking to me? And I, scrambles, picked it up and he goes, yeah, I don't want to mess up your name, but yeah, I need you to reach out. And I just text back, whatever you want,
Yeah,
yeah.
right, right.
So, and then that's how that started.
Wow.
He wanted his doll. I made it in his likeness and it just kind of snowballed from there.
That is
Um,
so crazy.
I went to high school with Spice One. He's our Bay Area legend in hip
Mm-hmm.
hop. And he honored me with making his doll. And he
Nice.
loved it. I had to make him two. And his mother, rest
Mm-hmm.
in peace to her because she passed, but his mother liked it so much, she took it from him. And I've been meaning to make him another one, but it's just been crazy. But I was like, there's something to this. And when
Wow.
you think about it, hip hop culture, it's a
Yes.
lot of the foundation of it was during that Gen X. We were
Yes.
into collecting things, especially
Mm-hmm.
now that we're older and
Mm-hmm.
we have the money to buy what our parents couldn't
Yes, exactly.
afford.
That's so true.
They're into action figures, they're into comic books. So it's
Mm-hmm.
fitting. They
Yes.
enjoy having a doll in their likeness.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really just snowballed from there. It's amazing. But when the fair competition started, I would
Mm-hmm.
always go to the fair with my family, mainly my grandparents. They would take us every year. And we'd go through the gallery and look. And I never saw a doll that looked like me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it just was a fact. But the doll competition has grown tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
But back then, we're talking the early 80s, it was more dresses
Right.
and
Yes.
sweaters
Mm-hmm.
and blankets. But as years went on, there were more dolls. So of course, when I got started making dolls, I was like, why not? Well, why not enter some? So the first time I entered, I believe it was the Golden Girls I made. Again, Allison Hoffman had a pattern, and it's the cutest thing. I entered, I think just Dorothy and Sophia. I ran out of time. So those were the
Okay.
two figures I had
Mm-hmm.
made. So I entered those and I got an honorable mention. And I thought, what? I couldn't believe it, but I also kind of messed up. I entered it under crochet. What I should have done
Mm.
was entered it in dolls and toys. So that was a
Oh,
learning
okay.
experience.
Okay. All right.
So the next year I learned my lesson. I entered I can't remember what was trending that year. Deadpool,
Okay. Okay.
the
Nice.
the
Yes. Mm-hmm.
comic book
Comic. Mm-hmm.
figure. I entered that, and little did I know, gosh, it leaves me, but the company, his movie started trending,
Mm-hmm.
and their company reached out to me, and I thought, well, okay, and they're saying we need it right away, and I thought, well, this is crochet. This isn't mass produced. This takes
Right.
time. This
Time.
takes
Right.
days. And they said, oh no, we have confidence in you. You can get this done. And I thought, okay. And they said, don't worry about rush shipping. We'll send it. We'll send you,
Mm-hmm. What you
everything you
needed.
need. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay. So that made me get the let out. Then the next day, I get another message from them. They're like, oh, and by the way, throw in a set of the Golden Girls too. And I'm thinking, sir or ma'am, I didn't know who I was talking to. I'm like, this takes time. And they said, well, you don't understand. We have a deadline to meet. And I'm thinking, well, who is this? I let it go. I'm like, okay, let me just get this done. I
Right.
focused. Matter of fact, I have a full-time job. I think I called in sick a day or two just to get this order done. And maybe,
I,
I don't work for them anymore. But yeah, I
you're
don't
like,
think
oh,
I
maybe I
work.
shouldn't have said that.
So I went ahead, I knocked it out, got the information, went to FedEx because it had to be there the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And the technician, I'll never forget this. They entered the address and they looked at me and they looked at the address and they said, who do you know from Fox Studios? And I said, I'm sorry. And they said, you do know this is going to Fox Studios. And my mind was blown. I was like,
Wow.
what in the world is this request for? Because I thought it was kind of just like a very, I don't know, interesting person. Like they
Mm-hmm.
want a
Right.
dead doll and they want Golden
Right. Golden
Girls.
Girls.
What
Right.
in the world? Little
Fox
did I know,
Studios. Wow.
Fox Studios was doing a promotion. It was the Golden Girls, I believe, 30th anniversary. I can't remember
Mm-hmm.
now. And Deadpool movie release. And I didn't know the character had this um,
Thing
I don't know,
with
bond with B author. I think his sword he named
oh.
B. My
Oh,
son is gonna
okay.
kill me for not memorizing this, but I didn't know the connection. So sure
Right.
enough, I wake up the next day and a friend of mine, she sends me this message. She goes, hey, are these your dolls? And I clicked on it. It was on Facebook. It was on Instagram. They
What?
put the doll. I'll send you an image of this. They put the doll, both sets of dolls. It was very neat. They had like a CGI background, and I
Mm-hmm.
thought,
Oh
oh
my
my god!
gosh.
Even the designer, Allison, I remember she went on her page and said, "Hey, who's making these dolls? That's my pattern." It was amazing, but it just made me realize, people
Yeah.
are mocking me and saying, "Really, you crochet? You sit in a rocking
Right.
chair?"
Right.
But if Fox Studios,
I
if hip
know.
hop artists, if they,
Yeah.
so that
Yeah.
gave me the proof that I needed.
Mm-hmm.
There's something to this,
Yeah, it is something to it. But the thing is
So
too about that is that you just never know who's watching. You
you
never,
never
ever,
know.
ever know. It's so funny when you said that. It reminds me when we were doing the Big Beautiful Dolls, we had a conversation with Monique a while
Mm,
back. Years ago. Because I mean, I was just when we first started, which is so long ago, 20 something years ago.
yes.
But and we had a conversation with her and her brother, and we thought we were going to do some dolls for them. Because we really wanted to expand the company and.
Wow.
So those that didn't pan out, but probably about 2, 3 months later, my mom calls me and she's like, "Oh my God, turn the TV on." So I turned the TV on. It was Entertainment Tonight. I never forget this. Entertainment Tonight. And Monique had one of our dolls on Entertainment
Oh,
Tonight.
oh,
Talking, it was
amazing.
the Dina doll. It was the one in the middle, not back there because Deja's in the middle there. So I think it's like if you're looking, it's probably to the left. But she had a
Okay.
Dina doll on there, and she was talking about the doll, and she was like, "Oh my God, isn't she beautiful? And doesn't she look like me?" And blah blah. And we were just like stunned. I was
I bet.
stunned. I was totally stunned. I mean, now she didn't reference us, but I don't know if that had something to do with, Entertainment Tonight or whatever it was, stating that, it probably
Right.
couldn't reference us or anything like that, because obviously that's an endorsement per se. But it
Hmm.
was just so interesting. You never know, and you just never know
You
where,
never
never know
know.
who's
You
looking at
never
you, and
know.
you don't know where your things show up at. But your competition, you won for the rap dolls, didn't you? Wasn't that in
I did.
2023 your
I
first place?
waited.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the year before I did was it Black, yes, Black Panther, when the movie was trending. I
Mm-hmm.
won first place for that. And then I thought, my goodness, what in the world am I going to do this year? Because my little ego got involved. And I'm like, I'm the crochet champion. What I have to follow up. And so, but it just really motivated me. And I thought, duh, you're turning 50, hip hop's turning 50. Make
Mm,
a tribute to hip hop. And that's
wow.
exactly what I did.
Nice.
And the patrons loved it. I don't want to get emotional about it, but it's just
Mm-hmm.
priceless seeing people react to them. The
Mm-hmm.
patrons at the fair loved it. Little did I know, like you said, you never know who's watching. The community loved it. Channel 5 reached out to me. Our
Mm-hmm.
local news reached out to me. Our local Black newspaper, they're out of Sacramento, California, The
Mm-hmm.
Observer. I couldn't believe it. They did articles about it, and folks
Mm-hmm.
loved it. They
Yeah,
loved it.
that's
And
so
it
cool.
just further reinforced, keep going. Look,
Mm-hmm.
people like what you do. It
Right.
brings so much joy, as dolls
Mm-hmm.
do.
Yeah,
Dolls,
dolls
I mean,
do.
that's the first toy I remember, a baby doll. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember that joy. And that's just what I do now.
Yeah.
It just brings joy to people.
Yeah.
But that was
I love it.
priceless though, to
Yeah.
see the
The
dolls
reception.
recognized.
Yeah. Yeah. The
And
reception you get from
I
that.
don't mean to creep people out, but I like going to the pavilion, and I just kind of sit and I just watch, and just
Mm-hmm.
seeing the children come, especially African American children, and
Mm-hmm.
they look and like they're recognizing the dolls and they're
Mm-hmm.
identifying with the dolls, and it is just very rewarding. Yes, the accolades are nice. Yes, the awards are nice, but it's just so addictive to see people's
Mm-hmm.
response, whether it's good, bad, or
Yeah.
indifferent.
Yeah.
I love that because it gives me feedback.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's telling me it either way, it's telling me to keep going.
Right, yeah. And it's
So
part of what you do. It's a passion that you have and you love doing it. So you want to know that people respond to that, and that they receive your work, because you
yes,
do put a lot into that. So walk me through a little bit of your creative process. Like, how do you go from an idea to a finished doll? How does that
it's
work for
really
you?
interesting. More than anything, people ask me all the time, how did you even think of this? But really, music is just
Mm,
so influential over
mm-hmm,
me. I always have music playing, whether I'm in
mm-hmm.
my office or whether I call my little workshop my stitch lab. It's in another room in the house. But I always have music playing. And music can bring back a memory, or
Yes.
if I've seen this person live, or sometimes I'll be
Mm-hmm.
watching an award show and I'll be
Mm,
inspired from that, or even a movie.
okay.
Um,
Cool.
Speaking of movies, I don't know if you saw the dolls I made from the Christmas movie Jingle Jangle. That
Oh.
movie
Mm,
inspired me so much. I'm watching the movie, and my son, I was the annoying mom. I'm like, we're all gonna watch this Christmas movie. So my sons are sitting there watching with me. And my oldest looked at me and he said, Mom, can you just watch the movie? I can tell your brain is thinking
already
about the
thinking.
doll. And I'm like, I'm sorry. So I got to stay present. But to answer your question, music,
Music.
the visuals I get from different movies I like, even memories, childhood memories. So I'm very
Mm-hmm.
nostalgic. Um,
Nice.
Memory will pop up and I just get that inspiration. Um, one of my favorite craft fairs that I did, I made a Rick James doll.
Oh boy,
And it
that's
was
so cool.
from,
That's
I
cool.
can't, I think it was the Street Song album cover. I just remember as a little girl seeing him. I thought he was so cool. My mom was very like, "You like Rick James?" No, but I just remember his braids because I had little braids too. I'm like, "Oh, he's so cool," And I remember the thigh-high boots. And one day I
Yes,
was like, "I'm gonna make a Rick James doll." And like you
that's so
said, you
cool.
never know who's looking on Etsy, who's following you on social media.
Hmm.
His bass player, one of his original bass
Nice.
girlfriend saw the doll, bought it for him, gave it to him for Christmas, and his only critique was, "I really wish you made a little bass guitar to go with it."
Oh,
And I thought, oh, why didn't I think of that?
yeah,
So
yeah,
then, I started thinking more
yeah.
collaboratively, like, hey, maybe if they play the bass, make a bass. If they play
Right.
the trumpet
Hmm.
to go with
Right.
them.
Right.
But music really
That's so
inspires me.
cool.
It really does.
Wow. Now you've been in the crochet business for a while now. So what has been some of your biggest challenges that you have faced, just make in the doll making journey, and in that community? It might not have been any challenges in the community, but definitely in the doll making journey. What challenges have you been,
Oh,
hit
yes,
with?
there are definitely challenges. Um, when you have a passion for something, some people assume that, oh, you like doing it, just give it to me. And I'm like,
Mm,
no. I mean, there was a time when I would do that,
yes.
but when you finally get yourself together and say, you know what, this is going to be a legitimate business. I need
Mm-hmm.
to value my work.
Yep.
I need to price accordingly because you don't want to insult the industry. I
Mm-hmm.
learned that the hard way.
Right.
I still have emails saying, "Girl, what are you doing? You're giving your work away," you know?
Wow. Yeah.
And I thought, "Oh my goodness, what am I doing?" So I would have to say my biggest challenge, you see this person, they like your work, they adore your work, and they want it. And perhaps they're telling you they can't afford it. But one thing I've learned is people can afford
Want
what
what
they
they
want to
want. That's
afford.
what I say all the time.
Yes,
All the
ma'am.
time.
It's interesting. And I had to learn this. I had to get thick skin because I used to let
Yes.
people intimidate me, like,
Mm-hmm.
you, how long does it take you to make that? How much are your supplies? I'm like, whoa, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned this analogy from a mentor. They don't know they're my mentor, but they told me, they said, have you ever gone to a Mercedes Benz parking lot or even a Bentley parking lot? Do you walk in there and say, "Oh, no, no, this is not in my budget"? No, they will kindly walk you to the door and say,
That's
"See
right.
that over there? That's CarMax. You need to go over there." Right. So they taught me, you are making one of ones. You have a skill that other people
Mm-hmm.
don't have.
Right.
They need to pay you for that and they need to respect what you do. And if they don't,
Mm-hmm.
tell them the nearest Walmart is 5.5 miles away and you can get something within
Mm-hmm.
your budget.
Right.
I wouldn't tell someone that, but I've learned to have an educational moment with them.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
yeah, because
Yeah. Yeah.
I wish I could mass produce these, but then for me, it would take away from it
Mm-hmm.
because I
Right.
put my heart and soul into these dolls. And the
Yeah.
people that are loyal to me, there's a lady every year she orders a doll from me,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a graduation, a wedding, or
Mm-hmm.
just a special friend that she wants
Right.
them to have a unique gift. And I
Mm-hmm.
love that.
Yeah.
And she appreciates what I do. She never haggles me about, oh, well, I'm getting two. Can you give me a good deal? And she respects it. I'm not a
Right.
big box store.
Right.
Um, so
Mm-hmm.
for me, pricing, well, I shouldn't say it used to be an issue for me. Now I'm
Mm-hmm.
very unapologetic. This
Mm-hmm.
is my fee. This is what you want. This is going to be my fee. If you want to go with that, here's our contract.
Right.
You need to come
Yeah.
back, great, but this is my fee.
Mm-hmm.
And it's taken years for me to be able to say that.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I mean, it's so funny. Like all the people that I interview, that is definitely one of the challenges is about, pricing start just learning how to price their art because, a
Yes,
lot of times you're creative and you know that you could do it. And sometimes it comes easy to somebody you've learned it to the point where it does come easy to you now. And sometimes you don't, like you say, if you don't respect the work that you put into it, then you can't expect other people to respect that. And sometimes,
that's
even
right.
though you do, some people still, like you said, challenge you and they want to know,
Hmm.
why does it cost this much or why does it do that? And I don't think that you need to really have an explanation about that. It's your art. It's something that
Yes,
you do and you spend time on. And this is the reason that they're reaching out to you. because they love what you do. So then they need to
Yeah.
pay for what you do. I mean, I think that's a big challenge, in this in the doll creative space. But it's your time and it's your
Yes.
hours, and it's your creativity and your knowledge, to create those things. So I
Yes.
totally understand that. That is a big challenge, I think, in the in the
It
art
is.
world in general. You know what I mean, in the artist world. So
Yes.
yeah,
Because you always hear about the starving artist, but
yes, we do.
no, it
Right.
shouldn't be that way. And we need art. Art makes
Hmm.
us happy.
Yeah.
Um, I have a friend who he's into collecting art pieces, and he saw, I couldn't believe my job put the article and the links to me winning at the state fair at work. And so now my both worlds are colliding. My
Oh
coworkers are
yes.
like, "Hey, I saw you," and and it was kind of nice having it separated, but it's kind of nice now to mesh them.
Yes. Of
But
course. Yes.
I he had mentioned to me he was an art collector,
Hmm.
and he told me, he said, people aren't calling your dolls toys; they're calling it crochet. He goes, you do realize what you're doing is art, and for him to say that, my heart just skipped a beat. And I thought, thank you so much. Because
Yeah.
so many people minimize what I do. Like,
Yes.
that's made out of yarn. That yarn, really? And they're like, all about the yarn. Will you make it for the cost of the yarn? I'm like,
No.
absolutely not. And they don't, but that's the thing. They don't realize how
Yes.
insulting that is. They
Yeah.
don't know. They
No,
don't know.
and don't
See, you're
realize the
really
work that
playing.
goes into it, really.
Mm-hmm.
It is a lot of work. You have to learn that
Yeah.
process. You have to learn how to
Mm-hmm.
create those things, and just because you think about it, you still have to learn how to get it out of your head into that doll. And
Yes.
once it does, that doll has to speak for itself. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That art has to speak for itself through that doll. So it's not just about, oh, let me just put these needles into the yarn. I mean, it's a whole lot of
Mm-hmm.
things that go with that.
It's definitely a
Yeah.
technique. And other crocheters, they'll say, like, hey, I make blankets. Like, how'd you start doing that? And what they don't understand, I'm like, well, if you could make a blanket, you can do this. I'm just not
Mm,
doing it. We're doing the same stitches. These
mm,
dolls are literally, maybe, depending on how complicated they are, maybe
mm-hmm,
4 to 5 different stitches.
okay,
And
okay.
if you can, and you're just doing it in a circle instead of at
Instead of
length.
the length.
But every
Okay.
crocheter I talk to that doesn't make dolls, they're like, oh no, I couldn't do that. And I'm like, no, you make these elaborate, detailed blankets. You
Yeah,
can. They're like, oh
right.
no, no, no. So it's just one of those things. It's just one of those things.
Yeah,
Much
it
like
is a
me.
required practice, isn't it?
Right.
It
You have
really
to, and
is.
you have to be in the right state of mind too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can make blankets, but it's not for me. I'll have people that will write to me, and I find it interesting. I've been doing this for over 5 years now as a business, and I'll still get requests like, "Oh, your dolls are crochet. Well, I have a baby shower to go to. Can you make me a blanket too?" And when I do, I reach out to my friends who
Yeah, who
specialize
does
in
specialize
blankets
in that,
and
right?
booties and
Yes.
hats. I could do it, but they can do it, and
Mm-hmm.
it's beautiful. And they always ask me, girl, you could do this yourself. What? You're sending me customers? I'm like, yeah, because this is what you
This
do.
is what that.
And it's very nice when they get the doll request, they send me the doll request.
Right,
It's a
right.
beautiful thing. It's beautiful.
Speaking of that, then yeah, let me ask you. So when you were mentioning that before about how you share the information with other artists to maybe create blankets, and vice versa, they'll share stuff with you. Do you do collaborations and partnerships with other people with the type of work that
Oh,
you do? And what would
absolutely.
they, if you don't mind sharing? Can you share one of them with us, or how did
You
that go
know,
for you?
it's been a minute, but unfortunately, after the George Floyd
Floyd. Mm-hmm.
um, murder, a lot of people, what's a nice way of saying this? In the past, Black doll artists, we were there,
Mm-hmm.
but were we getting the likes and shares? No, not really. I'm like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's nice what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But after that, it was very interesting how relevant we became.
Wow.
So I
Wow.
had so many people reach out to me after that terrible incident, and I picked up on a vibe that was quite disingenuous. So
Mm.
I had to let a few go. But people that knew me
Mhm.
before, who were promoting me before, who were
Right.
supporting me before, of course, I would
Mhm.
collaborate with them.
Mhm.
There were a lot of people online
Mm-hmm.
They would do giveaways. They would do promotions,
Nice.
and they would highlight me on their page. And I
Mm-hmm.
appreciated that so much because I made connections that I still have to this day.
Mm-hmm.
So that was very nice. These are people I never even met before. We're online friends, and
Mm-hmm.
the maker community is vast.
Yes, it
And
is
then
huge.
it's huge. And
Yes.
then when you get more local, and then we're like, oh, there are other knitters and crocheters, and
Mm-hmm.
you start linking up, and it's
Yes.
amazing what
Yeah.
word of mouth can do. But there was a lot of online because we had to deal with COVID,
Mm-hmm.
so a
Limited.
lot of remote things. Um, I even had folks, oh, she's gonna get me. I can't think of the name of the school right now, but with a lot of the online schools and whatnot, she reached out to me and wanted me to just, do a presentation about crochet, its origins,
Mm,
why I do
nice.
it. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought, sure. And I thought, I'll volunteer to do it. No, she was going to cut me a check for this. And I was like, what? You're going to pay me money to talk about my passion?
That's
Mind blown,
that's good. That's
completely
beautiful. That's
mind
what you
blown.
want. That's what people want.
Yeah. And
Yes.
I'm so naive. I'm like, I don't even know what to ask for,
Right.
for a
Yep.
fee. And,
Mm-hmm.
and it just, things just got really real all of a sudden. But I learned the power of collaborating in that
Yes.
way. And you have your followers, they have followers that never even heard of you. And you just start
Mm,
fusing together. And the
yes.
next thing it's just growth
Mm-hmm.
and bigger. But the best collaboration is joining the American Black Beauty Doll
Associate.
Association. Those are my
Oh,
doll sisters. Um, I have to give you the background though. It still blows my mind. I'm a part of this organization.
that's so
I was
cool.
doing a show in Jack London Square in Oakland. It's a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful area. Don't listen to the hype about Oakland right now. There are still
Mm-hmm.
some very
Mm-hmm.
nice areas. One of my favorite shows was done in Jack London Square. Because I'm originally from Oakland, so any excuse I have to go back
Mm-hmm.
to
To go
Oakland, I
back.
love doing
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being number one, the only doll vendor. Number
Mm.
two, the only, of course, Black doll
Mm-hmm.
vendor. So I kind of stood out. A lady came into my booth. She admired everything I do, and she goes, "Are you a part of the Black Doll Association?" And I'm like, "Black Doll Association? I didn't know there was a Black Doll Association." She goes, "Yeah, they're right here in Oakland. You aren't a part of them." I said,
Wow.
"Tell me. Well, I need more information." She goes, "Well, I'm sure you can look it up online." So I go home. Of course, I couldn't find them. And knowing what I know now, it's because I wasn't searching correctly. Our SEO is a little interesting, and we're working on that.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So we're a lot more discoverable now.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So
Sure.
I'm not joking. What, almost 4 years later,
Wow. 4 years
the
later.
president of the organization, Miss
Yes.
Stacey Monique, reached out to me, mind blown. I'm just minding my
Wow.
own business, la la la, online. I get a DM from her. I've been looking for you guys. So it's so beautiful. So there's a process. You apply, they interview you, and
Mm-hmm.
I was just a mess. I'm like, oh, I
Oh.
really want to do this. And they are the sweetest,
Yes, they are. I must
kindest,
say.
most generous, understanding group of women, and
Yeah.
so creative,
Yeah.
so creative.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud to say I'm a member of that. I'm just notified I'm part of the social media team now. So
Nice. Oh,
um
that's
mhm,
wonderful.
it's
Wonderful.
beautiful. And every year now, I did my
Mm-hmm.
first event. Let me back up. I did an event with them, and I was hooked. I was like, oh yeah, I need to be a part of this. So
That's
every
wonderful.
year we
Mm-hmm.
do our show, but we do
Yep.
other things throughout the year.
Right. Yes.
This year it's so many plans. We're going to be knocking y'all socks off.
Oh, that's
It's
so beautiful.
it's
I'm so
coming.
excited. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's so funny. I got the call on my end, right? They had to ask me to participate and to do a show. They were able to bring together for me a lot of the artists, a lot of the people there that established the American Black Doll Beauty Association and do a
Yes.
show. And it was just beautiful. It was so funny. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I got like 6 or 7, 8 women on this. How is this gonna happen? I was a little stressed, but I was
Oh,
thinking to myself, but I
it was
wanted to do
beautiful
it.
though.
I really wanted to do it, and I'm just so honored that they reached out to me as some person that could, showcase what it is that they did. And I really
Yes,
appreciated that so much, So I want to thank them again. Thank you to the American Black
yes,
Beauty Doll Association for doing that for me too, because it gave me an opportunity to just see what's happening in Oakland and, in different parts of California, and to find other people out there to showcase, which is what I love
yes.
to do. So, and if you
Thank you.
need any support, just don't be afraid to reach out to me. I'm always
No, we
open to that.
appreciate you so much.
So yeah. What kind of future projects and expansions are you considering for, for Adwoa Designs? Like,
Oh,
where do you
wow.
plan on going with this? You've been
You
in this
know,
5 years now? Been doing it for 5 years, you said?
actually, I actually got my DBA. I became a legitimate business because it takes so much discipline. Um,
Yes, it does. What?
yeah, yeah. The 1 year, my tax guy was like, "We're not doing this again." I had to go through my other bank accounts to figure. He goes, "No, you use your business account." I had to
Yes.
grow up real quick,
Yeah.
grow up, be
Yeah.
a businesswoman, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, legitimate business started in 2015. I'm sorry, 2016,
Okay.
right?
All right. Mm-hmm.
So, it's been going good. Some years better than others,
Mm-hmm.
but I do work full time. I
Right.
still have
Yes, you
my
did
career
that.
in nursing,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so that's I'm a mom. That's my real job, mom. And then I'm a nurse, so my job's getting in my way. So
I
I'm
know.
kind of looking forward to the next 4.5 years.
Tell me about
Um,
it. Tell me
yeah,
about it.
I'm making my moves now to get
Mm-hmm.
to when I retire, I'm going full time into this,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I'm doing my homework now. I have a lot of great mentors. People out there don't
Nice.
even know they're my mentors. I'm learning from them the steps I need to take to get
Mm-hmm.
where I need to be.
Right. Beautiful.
Ultimately, I already have my eye on the shop downtown Fairfield,
Oh, nice.
California, where I'm gonna be setting up shop. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people tell me, "Oh, just do it out of your house." I'm not comfortable doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like
A
to have
designated space for
a
that.
designated
Mm-hmm.
space, so it's building up to that.
Yes. Okay.
But
Beautiful.
just lessons,
Yeah.
group sessions, every show I
Nice.
do, it's wonderful. There'll be a teacher attending a doll show or a craft fair, and they'll say, "My students need this, they need their enrichment," and we'll exchange contact info.
Mm-hmm.
Some follow up, some
Right.
don't.
Right.
A
Mm-hmm.
lot of parents will say, "My daughter needs to learn," or "My son, he
Mm-hmm.
wants to learn." There's a lot to be done, a lot of work to be
Right.
done. So
Yeah.
I'm taking the baby steps now.
Mm-hmm. And it's just you,
But if
so I get that. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yes.
I look forward to when I can dedicate fully to this. But now, after I get off work, this is what I do,
Mm-hmm.
and then I do the mama first, and then I do this when they get situated. But being a member of the American Black Beauty Doll Association, this is what I've needed. We're going to be so busy this year.
Mm-hmm.
We're more organized this year. We In the past we would start promoting more right before the doll show, and
Mm-hmm.
we've
Right.
learned that's a no.
Right. Right.
Throughout the year, we need
Mm-hmm.
to be doing that. We're
Mm-hmm.
going to have a plethora of workshops. Just and all of us have our own medium. I'm the only
Yes.
one that crochets or does the amigurumi dolls.
Right. Right.
We
Mm-hmm.
have porcelain dolls, resin,
Cloth dolls and resin. Mm-hmm. Okay.
and we're always learning new methods, but it's all based in making dolls.
Yes.
A lot of associations, they're more like collectors. I mean, we collect
Yes.
too,
Yes.
but we're
Mm-hmm.
really into the making part, and
Mm-hmm.
we want to teach the
To teach
youth.
them.
they
Yeah.
they need this because the
Yeah.
skill's fading,
Yes, I
right?
was going to say yes. I mean, you need that other generation, those other younger people coming up, so that way
Yeah.
it can it passes on.
And I have boys, so they're not really interested. I have a great niece. I'm hoping I can inspire her, but the need is there, and
Yeah,
we're willing and ready to fulfill it.
that's so cool.
And ultimately, the doll show's coming this fall.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'll be competing again.
Nice,
I'm the reigning champ in
beautiful.
the state fair, so I got to figure out how to knock everybody's socks off again this year. I have several ideas, but I haven't narrowed them down. I have three different ideas. So I still, we have to present our doll sets in April. So I got to get the let out for
Oh,
that.
okay, yes. Mm-hmm.
But for
Okay.
me personally, for Adwoa Design, in the spring, I'm going to release my doll collection. I don't want to tear up about this, but my dad saved a drawing that I did when I was in
Mm,
kindergarten. You couldn't ask me what I had for lunch yesterday, but I remember this over 33 years ago now. Our kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Oliver, she told the whole class, draw a picture of yourself. We're doing
mm,
self-portraits today.
mm-hmm,
And I thought,
mm-hmm.
oh, wow. And, I didn't know, even then, I was pretty creative. Art skills were a little limited, but instead of just drawing a picture of myself,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I asked for a long sheet of paper and she just went with it. She had different construction paper out. I got this rectangular long sheet of paper and I ended up drawing pictures of myself with different hairstyles because my mom
Oh,
loved to do
nice.
my hair.
Okay,
So
nice.
I just, and she asked me, why do you want that? And I said, well, because my hair doesn't look like this every day. I wear it like
Mm-hmm.
this and I wear it
Different,
like that. And she said,
right.
okay, go ahead. I didn't know she was entering that drawing into a local art competition
Oh.
for the school. I don't think I won an award, but I still have it. And you could see the stamp of the art show. So
Mm-hmm.
I know it was displayed. So my dad gives this back to me. I'm 50 now. He hands this to me. He goes, oh,
Wow.
remember this? And I thought, Dad, you
Wow.
saved that? And he said, yeah, why would I throw this away? I had it
That's so
framed.
cool.
I put it in my stitch lab and it just hit me one day. It's like, there's your doll collection right there,
Yeah, that's
you
so
know?
cool.
So that is it. And I'm trying to figure out, I don't design my own doll pattern yet.
Okay.
Because as I said, I don't want to infringe on anyone. And I use all these wonderful designers.
Right.
Um, but I use bits from this one and bits from this
Mm-hmm.
one. But I
Mm-hmm.
need to just focus and center and do my
Create
own.
your
But
own,
in the
right.
meantime,
Mm-hmm.
when I do that, do use theirs, I have their permission to use
Right.
theirs,
Yes,
and
of
I
course.
obviously
Mm-hmm.
disclose that. So that's my baby right now.
Oh, that's gonna
Yeah,
be really, really beautiful. I
I
can't wait to
can't
see
wait.
that.
Yes.
Did you play with dolls a lot when you were younger?
Oh,
You
absolutely.
did?
My
Okay.
parents, as I
Beautiful.
mentioned, my dad was a lot more vocal about it than my mom. I
Mm.
remember a lot of birthdays would come and go. I'd want a specific doll, and if it wasn't brown,
Like,
it
yeah.
didn't have a little texture to the hair, my dad wasn't having it. And I
Yeah.
appreciate that now. It just
Yes.
instilled a lot in me.
Mm-hmm.
But I did. I remember one of my first toys was a doll behind me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is my first Cabbage Patch Kid.
So cute.
She stays in here and inspires me. I remember some of my favorite dolls were just the typical baby alive, baby
Mm-hmm.
this and that.
Yes.
I was so happy when Strawberry Shortcake had a little brown friend. I think it's Peach Blossom. I was like, finally, I can get a Strawberry Shortcake doll. I'm telling you, my dad just wasn't having it.
Wasn't having it.
Um,
Yeah, I get
no,
that. Yeah.
and some of my earliest memories of playing with these babies, taking them everywhere with me, putting
Mm-hmm.
them in the car. And I just remember the joy that they gave me when I was upset or when I was
Yeah.
in trouble. I had my doll, I'm telling my doll, I'm gonna run away. And it was just you learn through
Yes.
play. And that was one of my formative memories, just having them, whether I sat them on the bed. It was to the point where I think I was maybe 12. My grandmother pulled me to the side and she goes, you know what? You're too old for this. And I remember her taking several of my dolls and I hid
Mm.
this one. I was like,
Mm.
you're not taking
You're not
Lolita.
getting this one.
Yeah. So
Lolita.
yeah. And here, of course my grandmother's passed on now. She'd probably be like, you do what now? Yeah. Even my dad, he didn't get it what I was doing with the doll making. And he said, wait a minute. You went to nursing school and you want to make dolls. I said, Dad, yeah, it's what I want to do. Until the day he came over, I had something to do. He had to ship some dolls for me. So he came over and I was trying to get it ready. And he happened to look and he saw the invoice. And he said, I'm sorry. um, what is this for? I said, Dad, this is what I need you to ship. He said, wait a minute, they paid that much for that doll? I said, yes, Dad. Then it was a different
Then
story.
there's a
Oh,
different
can you,
story. Sure,
yeah, can you
making
take a
money.
leave of absence from your job and do the, and I'm like, oh, now you get it. Now you get it. But that's the way it is.
Yeah.
You
Well, and I
don't,
get that. I mean, I understand
yeah.
that because they have a different perspective on,
Oh, yeah.
you making sure that you have a livelihood. You have to think back to their way of life, what they
Yes.
were, how they were raised, that kind of
Hmm.
thing. It was so funny. I had a friend that I that I spoke to recently. He mentioned that he was saying, "Oh, my son's friends, they was talking about their dreams and what they want to do." And I'm like, "Well, they're going to be broke." And I said to myself, "Did you say that to them?" I mean, because
Wow.
he's
Yeah.
thinking it has to be something concrete that he could see that you're making money. Sometimes
Hmm.
people think, oh, this is my dream to do that. And it's like, yeah, your dream is probably not going to lead you to actually making money. So he was
Right.
just afraid of that for his child. But I said, but I would have done it differently. I would have had that conversation
Yeah.
differently, because I think it think it's not very I don't think it's very helpful to just squash somebody's dreams or passions. I think you
No.
need to just show them, that you can still do both. You can have a career in something else to earn that income, but if you can always still build your passion and your dream, for it
Yes.
to, replace that income. And for some people, they don't care if it replaces it. They just happy to do it. It just depends
Hmm.
on how you see that for yourself. So
Well, and,
yeah.
and it depends on what you want because
Yes, how
we
you
have this
mm-hmm.
term
Yep.
in the maker community called a jobbyist, right? Where you like
Mm.
doing it. If you make a little money, great.
Right.
But
Yes.
then you have the legitimate maker,
Exactly.
entrepreneur pushing
Exactly.
it.
Yep.
And I get a lot of calls and I'm sorry, not calls, a lot of direct messages, people saying, "Hey, I want to do what you do. How do I get
Mm-hmm.
started?" And I appreciate that you think enough of me to ask,
Mm-hmm.
but I've learned to, that takes a lot of energy and a lot of time because a lot of people want to know how to do it. And I tell them, this is what I did, this is how
Yeah.
you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Very
Right.
few people will actually do it because
Of
it's work.
course, exactly, because it's work, and they realize, oh, now this
Mhm.
is really like another job in a way, right? It's
Yes.
not just like, hey, even when it comes to podcasting, oh, you're a podcaster or whatever, you know. But
That's
you
a
know
lot
what?
of
But
work.
it's a
Oh my
lot of
goodness.
work. It is a lot of work,
Hmm.
and at some point, like you said, if you're not doing it as a hobby, you want to be able to transition and monetize, So it is a lot of work. It's something that
Hmm.
you have to be aware of and figure out how you're going to do that for yourself, just like in any
Absolutely.
art form. So
Hmm.
yeah, but we appreciate your work. We appreciate what you
Uh,
do, and the amazing dolls that you crochet and show, and bring in your culture and who you are as a person and the things that you loved in your life, and you represent that through your dolls. And we want to,
thank
just
you
say
so
thank you so
much.
much for doing that. Now I know your dolls are like your babies, and we don't ask this of people, but do you have favorite dolls
Oh,
that you
wow.
created,
You know
and let us
what?
know what makes it really special to you?
You said it. They're like your babies. And I would never say, oh, you're my favorite child,
Right.
but I would have to say there's actually maybe two that I would have to
Mm,
say are absolutely my favorites. And there's a reason why.
mhm,
I mentioned hip hop, and I'm just so just ingrained with hip hop. Um, there was a time when I actually wanted to be a rapper. And a
mm,
lot of people are going to
okay.
hear that and be like, oh, really? Do I have the skill? No. And I'm glad I was self aware enough to say, you know what? No,
That's
do not
funny.
do that. Do not embarrass yourself. But
Oh.
the artist that inspired me to do that was Slick Rick. He is
Mhm,
still doing
mhm,
his thing. And I made a smaller version doll of him.
mhm,
And the promoter that I mentioned earlier, Dana, I didn't realize she was connected to him. And
mhm,
I'm so thankful she was able to hand him that doll. And I have an image of him
mhm.
holding it. And I was like, he has the doll. And he liked it. She sent him a picture of it. And he said, oh, it's dead on. Dead
That
on me. And
that's
I,
so
I
cool.
adore that. So that will always be one of my favorites, just because, the man, I heard his album. I was like, I knew every word of the song, and I, in my room, do it. I want to be a rapper. And then, like I said, that went by the wayside. Thankfully, trust me on that. Um, so besides his, I would also have to say, um, giving dolls to DJ Scratch
Mhm.
and DJ Jazzy Jeff. That was mind
That's
blowing.
so cool.
And to be able to hand them to them, they
What?
were doing a tour,
Mhm,
and they came to San Jose, California. I was I was driving there. My hands were shaking all the way. I got to the venue. I sent him a text, I'm here. Where should I meet you guys? Oh, come on up. I felt like such a VIP. I went up and he found me in the crowd, which blew my mind. And I remember him opening his doll and looking at it. And in that moment, I was like, this is what I want to do the rest of my life. I can't believe this. And, he's from New York, he's from
Yep, I
Brooklyn,
know.
they
Yep.
don't smile, but he gave me a Brooklyn smile, just
That's
that
awesome.
stoic, like he said, this is amazing. And then he said, let's go find Jeff. And I was like, wait a minute, Jeff, just as in Jazzy
Yeah,
Jeff,
Jazz
like
and Jeff.
Fresh Prince of Bel Air. Are you kidding me? And he just said it. So like he goes, come on, relax. And I was like, so we go to give Jeff his doll. And in my mind, I'm screaming. And if you see the image, I look very calm, just oh, hello, We walk up to him and he says, hey, Jeff. And he turns around and it's like we're in a
Like,
nightclub,
ah.
music is booming, and he turns around and he does that smile and just he looks at me. The man, I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And I handed him his doll and just his smile when he saw it. So those two moments
Mm.
just will stick with me forever and ever. Um, but everyone that sees the pictures are like, gosh. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. My mind at that moment, that it's just etched in my brain, and just making them for them and
Yes.
seeing images of them and just trying to capture their details.
Their
And
details.
this is
Yes.
crochet.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's in their image. It's not a dead ringer,
Right.
but it's
Right.
in their image, and just the fact that it brought them joy, it was just a
Yeah.
win-win. I
That is
couldn't
so
believe
cool.
it.
That
So
is so
those two
cool.
moments were just mind-blowing.
I love it.
Yeah,
I can see how those would really, really, really be special to you. So that's
thank
beautiful.
you.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited for your expansion and the future things that you have coming up. And can you just share with everybody how they can find out about you and where they can buy your beautiful dolls at?
Wonderful. And I'm lucky enough to be Adwoa Design on every platform. I'm always on Instagram, usually on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
That's where most of the people that like what I do are at. My website, same thing, Adwoa Design. A lot of people put an S on the end, but it's actually adwoadesign.com. You can find me on there. This year I'm getting
This
my
year.
newsletter out. This year I'm
Oh,
getting my
nice.
email list with some consistency. It's
Mm-hmm.
been there, but it's time, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So if you want to know what I'm doing next, my next move, my plans, if you want to give me your input, what I should make, definitely get on my email list. I'm on Audio Design everywhere. You can find me.
Well, wow. Thank you so much, Adwoa, for being a guest on In the Doll World. Again, I am just thrilled that you said yes. And I'm so excited that people get to
Oh,
see what you do it, why you're passionate about it, and get to explore your journey with you. So I'm just really thrilled. Thank you again so much for being in the Doll World with me.
you're so welcome. My honor was being here. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Bye.